What happened was...
Hey friends, it's so nice to see you. It's today, the time is now. You are here and the weather is outside your window.
She's a singer, songwriter, country music star, and opera composer. Here to tell some remarkable stories about a trip across the Pacific Ocean on a freightliner and what inspired her to write her first opera is Arkansas Country Music Entertainer of the Year, Bonnie Montgomery.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm all right. It's great to see you.
Oh, you too, always.
Where are you right now?
I am in Wimberley, Texas.
And that's where you live.
Yes, that's where I live.
Amazing. So you're at your home piano there, where the magic happens?
Exactly where the magic indeed does happen.
So what has this last year at home been like?
Well, I have actually been in a creative storm during the pandemic. I have been returning to classical composition for a lot of the time during this time at home. And I wrote my first string quartet during the pandemic, working on a lot of new projects.
And you just dropped a brand new album.
Yes, I just dropped an album called Boat Songs 2002.
You are the Arkansas Country Music Entertainer of the Year, an award that was bestowed upon you in the pandemic, which says a lot about what your creative output and what you mean to your community, both your Arkansas community, but the greater country music community, that you're bestowed with this honor in a year when live venues are closed. How did that feel?
I couldn't believe my own response because I just like jumped and screamed and just hollered for like a whole 5 minutes.
Wow.
I did not calm down right away. And then when I stopped, I was just like, oh man, there's nobody here. It's just me. It was so quiet.
Oh.
Then I started getting some phone calls and texts, but it was very surreal. It was a huge, huge honor.
Many other honors and many more to come.
Thank you.
I think
You too.
I've just been watching you win awards for years now. Well, so we met in New York. Your first opera that you ever wrote, Billy Blythe, about the childhood of President Bill Clinton.
Right.
We produced that in New York with Metropolis
Yes.
Opera Project. Yeah, we've been friends ever since. I don't know of anyone else who's a country music performer and also an opera and classical music composer. Do you know of anyone?
No, I do not.
Right. So one of a kind, Bonnie Montgomery.
Of course, as an opera singer, you learn how to sing all languages. As a country singer going through a microphone, it's an entirely different sonic world.
Right.
An entirely different delivery, a different way of listening.
Right.
And I've always said that 50% of singing is listening. So
yeah.
Listening to the band around me, dealing with a much higher volume level on the stage, dealing with an entirely different acoustic coming back at me because it's coming out of the monitors right in front of me. That's a huge shift. But I have to say that my opera training has sailed me through every little hiccup I've had with that kind of thing.
I bet.
And I've been so thankful for that training in all the dirty late night honky tonks where people were spilling beer on me and all the beer bottles clanking and but I was still able to use that breath and all the things that I learned in opera to help me power through those moments.
Yeah. When did you become a songwriter?
I didn't write my own songs until I was in my early 20s. And I actually went to China and took a job over there teaching English in between undergrad and grad school. And when I was in China was when I started just writing, and it was coming out in country songs.
So you've been all over the world. You've been a country music star. You studied opera, and then you decided, in addition to being a songwriter, you're gonna get into classical composition, and you wrote your first opera.
What happened was I got inspired to write Bill Clinton's story because I was reading his autobiography and his mother's autobiography, and I could just see this story on the operatic stage, and it was just like haunting me. So someone who was a big press writer at the time heard that this idea was happening. So she leaked it on a blog. Washington Whispers was the name of the blog. And boom, overnight, my phone was ringing off the hook. On the Google search, my name was just like going viral. Jimmy Fallon mentioned it on his late night show. I didn't have anything planned on the books for this opera that wasn't even finished. So, and a side note, I had been playing country music at the Whitewater Tavern in Little Rock, which is literally a dive bar where the floor is like separating from the wall, and it's a gravel parking lot, and there's a railroad track right outside. And the press, big publications in New York, called the Whitewater Tavern and asked my friends who owned it for my phone number. And they gave my personal phone number out to, I believe it was the New York Daily Post. And so I didn't know how to answer the questions. There were no answers to the questions. So I was just making stuff up on the phone with these people about, oh yeah, we're going to do the premiere. Yeah, it's coming, definitely. And the thing's not even finished yet. We actually did a workshop performance in a beautiful, opulent, old 1920s hall in Little Rock. And then we did a late night showing at the Whitewater Tavern. Wow. At the stroke of midnight. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. And everyone in there was 3 sheets to the wind, including all the cast. And it was just absolutely spectacular, electric evening. It was unforgettable.
But now it's been done many productions around the country, and I'm sure will continue to be performed. And I think it's one of the great American operas of our time.
Thank you.
Well, what are you going to write next? What's your next operatic tale?
My next operatic tale might be about brothel owner in Hot Springs in the 1930s in Arkansas. Her name was Miss Maxine, and her brothels are still standing there in Hot Springs. She was quite the businesswoman, quite the brothel owner, and I just think there's an opera there. That's one of the ideas.
Absolutely. I look forward to hearing that one. So like many artists during this time, you decided to release an album without even being able to go into a recording studio. You're just like, I'm putting out an album during this pandemic. And you did something different in that you dug up recordings from how many years ago?
20 years ago.
20 years ago. So some of the first songs you ever wrote, I guess.
Yeah, these were the songs that I wrote in China in my early 20s. Yeah.
And so you recorded these songs, do I have this right, on your grandmother's fun machine and piano. So you decided to put them out as an album now, 20 years later, with spoken sections from your journal from that time with new compositions underscoring the spoken dialogue.
That's right.
And so the stories and the songs on this revolutionary album are about this journey you took, this epic journey across the world by boat from Arkansas to China. Can you speak on that, please?
Well, what happened was I was 22. I had finished my degree in music, and I wanted to see a little bit of the world before I started grad school. So I took a job teaching English at a university in China, English and music at a university in China. One side note fact about me is that I am a commercial airline plane crash survivor. So when I was 19 years old, I survived a fatal plane crash. So by the time I was 22, I didn't really want to fly. I started looking into this whole world of freight liners that take passengers, and
Like
it's still
cargo freight liners
cargo.
that take just a few passengers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very few
Okay.
passengers.
Like 5.
And yes,
Yeah.
5
Or
at the
3.
most.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, carry on.
So I found a company called Freighter World Cruises, and you could see the maps of all the ships and where they dock and where you could catch them and where you can get off of the boats. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could just keep going around and around the world on these freight boats for life if you
Wow.
wanted. I booked a ticket from Seattle to Hong Kong on a German-owned, Russian-operated cargo ship. And the
And
journey
you were 22.
and I was 22.
Okay.
That's right.
Got it.
And I never wanted to leave the surface of the earth for this whole trip. So the journey to Seattle from Arkansas was in the car. The journey across the Pacific Ocean was on the sea. And then when I got to China, I still had 30 something hours on a train to get to the town where I was teaching. So
Wow.
stayed on the surface of the earth the entire trip, just like I
Wow.
wanted to do. It was a 19-day journey from Seattle to Hong Kong. And 14 days of that were without seeing land in the Pacific Ocean. So I got to see the Aleutian Islands off of Alaska, got to see all these amazing ports of entry in Korea and Taiwan and mainland China and then Hong Kong, which was dazzling. And that's where I got off of the boat. So while I was on this boat, I would journal and write, and I'd just kind of keep a log of everything that happened. There was a Russian officer that was very close to my age. He was the third officer. He was also the safety officer. And we had a very youthful, sweet connection. A lot of my writings that I set to music for this album were about that romance, because I just felt like in the pandemic, we could all use a little bit of romance.
I implore everyone to go listen to it. There's nothing like it. Boat Songs 2002 by Bonnie Montgomery. And
Thank you.
what a special treat you have agreed to share. I think let's call it the big hit single and a fan favorite defining song of your career with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a parlor song called Spill.
Well, wow, that was incredible. I could listen to that song all day, and I know I'm not alone. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
What a gift. So everyone go listen to it online, and you can play it on repeat like I do. So can I ask you some questions?
Yes,
All right.
please.
Zodiac sign.
Leo,
First show you ever did.
Oliver,
Favorite work of art.
Beethoven's Fifth Symphony,
Favorite musical.
West Side Story.
Favorite opera.
Can I say Wozzeck?
Yeah, you definitely can.
Wozzeck.
Favorite actor.
James Dean.
What's the first opera you ever saw?
La Boheme. It changed my life. I cried like a baby and I was changed.
How old were you?
16.
Wow. Do you believe in past lives?
100%.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite color?
Oh, it changes all the time.
Favorite food?
I love Asian food. Any kind of Asian food.
Best vacation ever?
Go straight to Vienna, land in the airport and get an espresso, walk out onto the street and go to the premiere of my symphony.
All right, this is a really hard one, but just the first thing that comes to mind. Your favorite song ever?
Peaceful, Easy Feeling by the Eagles.
Okay, you're not in music. What's your backup dream job?
Emergency helicopter pilot.
Do you believe in ghosts?
100%.
You can go to any planet.
Saturn.
You can spend a whole year living as another person. Who is it?
Maria Callas.
Oh, yeah. You can go back in time to any moment in your life and tell your younger self in that moment one thing.
I'd go back to very soon after the airline disaster and tell myself that it only gets better. Life only gets better and never stop dreaming.
What's the meaning of life?
Helping others.
What was the high note of your life? What was the low note of your life?
That's all for this episode. I hope the rest of your today is wonderful. I know my today is better because of you. Puppies and rainbows till we meet again.